Benjamin Harris, a black man, had recently been appointed CEO of Brightview Solutions, a rapidly growing tech company. Before officially taking over, he wanted to understand the existing company culture among his managers and how they upheld the company's values. Aware of the prejudice that can hide behind polite facades, Benjamin devised a plan to visit headquarters disguised as a job applicant in a wheelchair, seeking a junior data analyst position. He aimed to observe the unfiltered behavior of those responsible for hiring. On the day of his covert operation, the lobby buzzed with hopeful applicants preparing for interviews. Benjamin quietly entered, wheeling himself toward the line of candidates. He noted the HR team members chatting and laughing, seemingly oblivious to him. When his name was called, he introduced himself as Larry Simmons, just another candidate. Cheryl Dixon, the HR manager overseeing interviews, initially appeared surprised upon seeing him in a wheelchair. Her demeanor quickly shifted to condescension as she questioned his qualifications for the data analyst position. Despite Benjamin's calm responses and confidence in his skills, Cheryl dismissed him with thinly veiled insults about his perceived limitations. Cheryl's remarks drew uncomfortable glances from other candidates, but she continued her condescending tone. Benjamin listened intently, taking mental notes of her behavior while maintaining his composure. Eventually, Cheryl suggested he leave, asserting that perhaps the job wasn't for him. With a polite nod, Benjamin turned away from her but had no intention of leaving. He had gathered enough information for his plan. Later that day, Benjamin sat in his office as himself, no wheelchair and no disguise, reflecting on Cheryl's dismissive comments and the indifference of her colleagues. He understood how such behavior could impact others who lacked the power to address it. With a sense of purpose, he prepared for his introduction to the staff. His assistant Jake entered with excitement about the upcoming staff introduction. The event was set in the main auditorium, where employees filled seats with eager anticipation. Cheryl and her HR team sat at the front, unaware that their earlier target was about to take center stage as their new CEO. David Carter, the founder and former CEO of Brightview Solutions, took the podium to welcome Benjamin. He spoke highly of his brother's commitment to fairness and integrity. Cheryl watched with mild curiosity, still expecting someone polished and charismatic rather than the man she had insulted earlier. When David introduced Benjamin as the new CEO, applause erupted in the auditorium. As Benjamin stepped on stage, Cheryl's expression shifted from curiosity to shock upon recognizing him as Larry Simmons. He carried himself with authority and dignity, commanding respect without raising his voice. Benjamin began by thanking everyone for their warm welcome and expressed his excitement about joining Brightview Solutions. He emphasized the principles of respect, inclusivity, and integrity that were foundational to the company. Cheryl squirmed in her seat as he recounted his experience earlier that day as an applicant. He shared how he encountered assumptions and prejudice from someone who should have represented Brightview's values, Cheryl herself. The audience began to murmur as they realized what he was implying. Cheryl's colleagues exchanged uneasy glances. Benjamin made it clear that there was no tolerance for discrimination or disrespect within the company. He encouraged those who felt afraid to speak up against such behavior and reaffirmed his commitment to maintaining integrity at Brightview Solutions. David supported Benjamin's message and addressed Cheryl directly, instructing her to meet them in his office after the meeting. Cheryl's face paled at this directive. She nodded silently while feeling exposed before her peers. As Benjamin concluded his speech with optimism about working together toward a bright future, applause filled the auditorium once more. He caught one last glimpse of Cheryl's terrified expression before leaving the stage. Cheryl walked toward David's office with clammy hands and racing thoughts about her actions earlier that day. When she entered David's office, both men awaited her with stern expressions. David motioned for her to sit down while Benjamin stood by the window. Cheryl hesitated but eventually spoke up first, apologizing for her behavior during the interview process. She claimed she was merely trying to uphold company standards but struggled to articulate her thoughts under their scrutiny. David interrupted her defensively. He emphasized that her actions were not about maintaining standards but respecting individuals regardless of their appearance or abilities. He pointed out that she had not given Larry Simmons a fair chance. Cheryl felt anger and embarrassment rise within her as she attempted to defend herself but found no ground for justification against their accusations. Benjamin reiterated that he had come to observe how employees treated candidates and others who walked through their doors. He expressed disappointment in witnessing behavior that contradicted Brightview's values, behavior that insulted and belittled individuals based on unfounded assumptions. David added that they could not tolerate discrimination or bias in any form within their organization. After careful consideration of Cheryl's actions, David announced that they had decided to terminate her employment effective immediately. The weight of this news sank into Cheryl. She looked at Benjamin for support but found only disappointment reflected back at her. Benjamin clarified that this decision was not merely punitive but about upholding company values and creating an inclusive culture where everyone felt they had an equal opportunity. Cheryl left quietly after acknowledging their decision. She felt defeated as she exited David's office. The atmosphere lightened once she was gone. Both men exchanged approving glances regarding how they handled the situation. David commended Benjamin for doing what was necessary to reinforce company values moving forward. Benjamin expressed gratitude for David's support and acknowledged there was much work ahead in rebuilding a culture of inclusivity at Brightview Solutions. For Benjamin, justice meant transforming company culture rather than punishing one individual. Ultimately, Brightview became a place where everyone could belong regardless of their background or abilities. This story illustrates how addressing prejudice can lead to meaningful change within an organization while highlighting the importance of respect and inclusivity in professional environments.